Well, good morning, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here and able to join us for our discussion about external engagement at the university. And this is part of our ongoing Ask Said Anything series, which we began last fall. So welcome, everybody. My name is Todd Gilchrist, for those of you that haven't had the pleasure yet to meet. I'm the Vice President of University Services and Finance. I also have the role of SET sponsor, SET executive sponsor, and I chair the Service Excellence Steering Committee, which is the governing body for the work that we're doing in SET. I'm going to be your moderator today. Appreciate you welcoming me into that role. I'll try to do the best job that I can. I'd like to first begin our day today, our time together today, with our treaty acknowledgement. The University of Alberta acknowledges that we are located on Treaty 6 territory and respects the histories, languages, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all First Peoples of Canada, whose presence continues to enrich our vibrant community. Grant, if we can go to slide 2, please. Excellent, thank you, Grant. As you all know, likely by now, or hopefully most of you will know, the new administrative operating model really is a significant shift from how we have operated our university in the past. You'll be able to see here that it consists of a hybrid of centralized and decentralized services that work together to promote consistency, avoid duplication in those services, and support a university-wide culture of service excellence. Many of the services and administrative activities that are common across the university will be centralized into centers of expertise. You can see them here on the slide. Here's where the services will be managed by teams of specialists or experts in those areas, and in collaboration with the new shared services units and service partners from across the different streams of work and different disciplines. Centralizing many of our university services helps us ensure that we can operate effectively and efficiently, really working within our new budget realities that we're all aware of, but also working to ensure that we support the core mission, teaching, research, the community, and allowing as much of our available funding and revenue to go to those core purposes. Will also help us reduce redundancies and, of course, simplify procedures and workflows. This means that staff will be able to experience within their roles, within this new model, more rewarding and specialized work, sustainable roles, and we have already seen and will continue to see clearer career paths emerging for people working within the new administrative operating model. We're going to work today to answer as many of your questions as we possibly can, and we'll get going. So I would like to start by introducing our panel today. We're happy to have our panel with us today, and we'll start with Elan MacDonald. Elan is our Vice President of University Relations and the executive sponsor of our external engagement stream of work. We have Sonia Piano with us today. Sonia is still relatively new to the university as our Associate Vice President of Marketing. We welcome Jennifer Pascal, AVP of Strategic Communications. We have Kelly Spencer with us today, Associate Vice President of Development. Sean Price, our Executive Director of Alumni Relations. Jasbir Sunner, known to all by Jazz. Welcome, Jazz. Jazz is our External Engagement Project Manager on the SET initiative. Annette McPherson, Welcome Annette as our Senior Human Resources Service Partner. We have Rob Munro, a face many of you will know as part of this initiative as our Executive Lead of SET. And last but certainly not least, Brian Stewart. Brian is our Program Director for the administrative restructuring transformation within the SET initiative. So welcome to all of our panelists, and I will now ask Elan to provide some opening comments. Over to you, Elan.
Perfect. Thanks. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Todd. So my opening remarks today will cover off 3 areas. So first, I'm just going to give a quick overview of the process that we undertook in external engagement. I'll speak to the key attributes of our new organizational structure, and then I'll outline some next steps. And then, as Todd alluded, I look forward to the Q&A session that will follow. I'd like to start by thanking the many people that have been involved in this process, beginning with Martina Kalkunas-Rappel, who is our external engagement SET academic co-sponsor. He started the work on thinking about how the service catalog should be organized almost a year ago in the fall of 2020, working closely with Catherine Swindlehurst, and she's been alongside me and my team throughout this process. Next slide, please. The external engagement portfolio brings together communications, marketing, development, alumni relations, and government and community relations services for the institution under one umbrella. Much of the work across these areas is focused on both external audiences, such as government, as well as internal audiences, such as student or staff. Next slide, please. We looked at a number of data points in designing the future state that helped us understand the type and volume of work across the faculties, which helped us understand the necessary resource distribution across the institution for each of our service areas. As you can see from this slide, there's been a great deal of consultation in this stream. There have been many conversations across the university where we heard great ideas on what's working well, on what was important to maintain, and what needed to be changed. Some of this was formal, structured conversations around the vision and goals for the external relations portfolio, as well as the service catalog. Other feedback was through more informal channels, such as my lunch with Elan sessions, or through interactions with directors and AVPs during departmental meetings. Next slide, please. The input was supplemented by some best practice work. For both advancement and communications and marketing, we engaged universities in both the United States and Canada to understand their structures, to listen to their advice on what structures work best. We also collected more structured feedback with respect to both quantitative and qualitative data through the data discovery process in May. We received over 100 data workbooks contributed to by over 600 individuals from across the university. We also had several rounds of conversation with college and faculty deans, as well as central portfolio VPs, along with college general managers, faculty general managers, and chiefs of staff. And throughout all of this, we heard many interesting thoughts from staff, and I wanted to share a few examples with you here today. Communications and marketing staff indicated that there was a great deal of benefit to be had through an integrated communications marketing structure across the university. We heard it would ensure greater alignment between communicators and that they would welcome the ability to work as part of a larger team. We also heard benefits included the ability for greater specialization and the ability for staff to have more varied career paths and to work in different parts of the organization. For the digital and website aspects, we heard and saw through the workbook that many people across the university were doing digital work off the sides of their desk. This work is not necessarily their areas of expertise, but they are people doing their very best to fill in the gaps, upload content, and updates to the web. In advancement, we've heard quite a bit about the nature and value of the relationship between frontline fundraisers and faculty. And this was reiterated in our best practice review with comparator universities across North America, which really had a big impact on our thinking as we work to ensure that disruptions to these relationships would be minimal. So we very quickly recognized that our current structure here at the University of Alberta is in fact the best practice, that of dual reporting and shared funding between the central units and the faculties, and that it would be important to sustain that. Next slide, please. So thank you very much. In addition to, sorry about that. In designing our structure, a number of principles guided our work. Firstly, what is driving this exercise is to determine the best way to deliver high quality professional services at maximum levels with less dollars. At the end of the day, we all know what's driving the set exercise is the need for cost containment. We know there's room for better efficiency and use of resources, as we heard it from staff across the university. And this was supported by data from Uniforum, which demonstrated that we were out of line with our university peers. As I previously stated, we also examined best practices with our comparator universities across North America. And finally, the other important point here to mention is that we are working to create a service culture. The success of this model is based on people working as a team, creating client relationships, and delivering timely, quality service in an integrated way. Next slide, please. So the structure approved by PECS in mid-July has now been public for over a month, and a link to this can be found in the chat function. For communications and marketing, we're establishing central teams that will provide oversight and coordination to university-wide functions and specialized areas. We're creating a centralized institutional marketing function, the first ever for the university, as I understand it. We will now be better able to promote our one university to the world. Senior partners for each of the colleges and central units will oversee teams of service partners and communications associates at the college, faculty, and unit levels. These teams will provide support to the faculties and, importantly, will be the gateway to the centers of expertise and all of their services. This model is flexible, intended to be responsive, and service-oriented. We are building one team. Our next slide, please. The development model largely remains the same. We heard that, as I mentioned, dual reporting and dual funding are critical factors to the success of our development efforts, and we'll be sustaining that model. Alumni relations support for faculties will be organized at the college level. Also new is alumni relations will report directly to the Vice President, reflecting its strategic importance to the institution. Yet to come is an events unit, which will initially focus on external relations and institutional events, and over time will service other parts of the institution as we grow our capacity. Government relations will have one new resource to support colleges and faculties. And for me, this is really important as we continue to build our one university approach. Next slide, please. So the largest change will be to the communications and marketing function. So I just wanted to share a bit more detail on the structure. Again, every faculty will have a dedicated partner who reports to a senior partner at the college level. The senior partner will work closely with the college general manager. There will also be shared resources at the college level for the faculties within it to access further communications, marketing, or digital support as needed. Next slide, please. The partners are the faculty's one-stop shop or gateway to resources across communications and marketing, which includes digital. This is a brand new way of operating and a brand new way of thinking about how we work together. The faculties will access resources in the center through their partners, and they'll access resources such as writers, student communications, and digital support. Within the center, our communications, marketing, and digital teams will work collaboratively as one team. As I like to say, there'll be no light between them. Next slide, please. We're starting the recruitment process from the top down. As you know, permanent AVP for strategic communications and AVP marketing positions have now been filled. We're currently looking to recruit to the director positions with job postings occurring in early August. The senior service partner and service partner roles should also be up on POP later this week, but please note recruitment will be staggered. And we're doing this to enable potential applicants to look at both at the same time and decide where they may want to apply. As leaders are appointed, we will ensure that the positions under their purview that require competition are moved onto POP and career websites as quickly as we can, given the steps required in developing job cards, job evaluations, and posting requirements. And lastly, we've started to think about how the structure will work from top to bottom. What processes will be required? How will work flow? How will the management structure work? How will we ensure feedback and input from all of our clients, from deans to FGMs, CGMs, and chiefs of staff, and all staff over time for process improvement? We're also preparing to engage with current faculty communicator leads to make sure we have a deep understanding of your priorities and activities between now and March. Through this process, we'll look to share with faculty and central unit communication leads the data that we collected in the discovery workbooks, along with the data from the audit that was completed back in 2020. As the transition occurs from faculties to the new structure, we know that some people may end up moving faculties or moving into central roles, and we want to make sure that we're able to identify faculty priorities, reoccurring communications, social media accounts, etc., to keep work flowing. We want to provide incoming partners with this tool to ensure that they have an understanding of all the good work that's been done in the past, and also ensure that nothing falls through the cracks. As we move forward, all of these processes, as we move forward through all of these processes, we will continue to use our usual communications tools such as POP, my weekly email, and lunch with Elan, as well as management meetings, so that we're continuously providing you with information on what positions are available and when. I'd like to thank all of you who have participated in this process. I know it hasn't been easy at all times, and I have sincerely appreciated your openness and your advice. I want to close with a few thoughts on my vision for the new external relations portfolio. My vision for the portfolio is to help position the university as a trusted, relevant community, industry, and government partner, playing a leading role in the region, the province, and the nation's economic and social success. It will be our combined efforts that help to reposition the university back into the top 100 internationally ranked universities. Our professional services are trusted and sought after across the institution. We're known for our modern approach to service delivery, data-driven strategies, best practices, responsiveness, and team approach. Staff have fun working in external relations. They feel valued and take great pride in being on the external relations team and in our great university. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to you, Todd, and thanks very much.
Thank you, Elan. Really appreciate the overview and the additional information. I'm sure will be very useful to those on the call today. We're going to get started. I'm going to spend the rest of our time together today in a bit of a Q&A format, and has become the custom on Ask Said Anythings. We do have a starting question. Today's question, I'm going to invite Rob Munro to read. Rob is reading a question that was submitted through the pre-event feedback form, and then Elan will go to you for answer, please.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Todd. Yeah, so as Todd mentioned, this is a question that came in on our system before this event. So the question is, unlike other portfolios that are led by an AVP, the alumni relations portfolio is led by an executive director. Additionally, it has no director positions, only manager level roles. The group is concerned about their place in the organization, as well with external audiences, given the different titles of our staff. So Elan, can you comment on that?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Rob. And certainly I've heard these concerns, and I welcome the opportunity to speak to it. I'll start by saying that, as with the other SET streams, external engagement has had to work within the SET parameters and guidelines. So one of which is flattening the organization. And so we had to look at specific roles, such as spans of control. That would be my first point. The other piece of this is the institutional move towards standardized job titles. And I have to say that for external engagement and external relations, this has proved to be particularly challenging for us. And I would say that for two reasons. One, we had a large number of executive directors within our portfolio. And the ability to continue to have executive director roles is greatly diminished under the new SET model. Secondly, our roles are largely external facing. So in government relations and alumni and development. And we know when engaging our external partners, titles matter. So what I would say to folks is that we work to be really mindful of fulfilling our obligation to work within the parameters of SET. with the need to have titles that would continue to resonate with our stakeholders and our shareholders. So I would say, I think we were successful in getting closer. I don't think they're perfect, and I understand that. And we'll try to live with them for a period of time and see how they resonate. And maybe I'll just back up a little bit too. When I first started this role back in January, alumni relations was a reporting function that sat within advancement. So Sean Price was the executive director and reported up to Kelly Spencer as AVP. In the new U of A structure and hierarchy, AVP portfolios are functional units and director teams are centers of expertise. So AVPs oversee multiple directors and managers, but more importantly, their roles integrate areas that are not discipline or function specific. And alumni relations doesn't fit into that category because they don't have multiple functions. It's more of a focused function area. And so under the SET model, it would normally continue to sit under an AVP portfolio as a center of expertise with a team of managers delivering their specialized programs and services, which alumni relations does so well. But I would say I see alumni relations as being strategically important to the university, as I mentioned in my opening comments. And I wanted to have more direct oversight personally and involvement in its evolution. I really believe for the university to be successful, we need to grow and strengthen our alumni engagement, continue to develop and build on our relationships with our graduates, and continue our work with Alumni Council. So I made the decision to have alumni relations function report directly to me so that I'm better able to support the function and Sean from an executive perspective. I think there's many opportunities, as I suggested, to continue to do more with our alumni. To strengthen their role and our relationships. I know the group has a history of really successful programs, programs that have become marquee of the University of Alberta, programs like Alumni Weekend and Alumni Awards and the very successful mentorship program. And I expect that working with Sean over time, he and I will be able to better support and the growth of the team. And through this create future opportunities for the staff. And I'm really excited for the opportunity to work with the alumni team and Alumni Council and Sean. So maybe I'll just pause there and see if Sean has any additional comments.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. I appreciate that. And, I know, some of the changes that have affected the titles of our team are tough. There's been changes throughout external relations and across the university, not just in alumni relations by any means. And titles are important, as you say, and my title was affected too. For one, I'm really excited to move forward with the work that I know that we're capable of doing. Elan mentioned some of our great programs, and we've added the annual giving team just recently too. In fact, I think our alumni relations program is one of the strongest in the country, and I'm really proud that in 75 years. With the Alumni Association, I'm only the third leader. It's pretty amazing. We have a great history of outstanding work, and I'm really looking forward to see where we can go with the full ER team in this new model. Maybe I'll just conclude by saying, last week I and many of the other panelists that were here today, we had the chance to attend the President's Leadership Retreat. And as the President has shared with a lot of our alumni over the course of the spring and summer, he doesn't want to be the president of cost containment, he wants to look towards growth. And, I think this is exciting for our full external relations portfolio because we're going to play a large part in that future growth. And I'm excited to see where this can go in the future.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Rob, Elan, Sean, and the initial contributor of that question. And thank you for your responses. We're going to move in now to our live Q&A session. As I mentioned, the panel is going to do the very best that they can to answer all of your questions. I'm certain everybody is familiar with Zoom at this point, but easiest way to do this is going to be to raise your virtual hand, and you will find that under the reactions icon or button at the bottom of your screen. And as I mentioned earlier, I am going to do the best job that I can to try to moderate this session. However, panelists, if you feel that I am directing a question to the incorrect place, just speak up. So thank you, Jillian Pratt. Let's start with your question, please.
Hi, Todd. Thanks for kicking this off. My question is a synthesis of what I've heard from different employees and their reaction to when that new org chart was released. I'm wondering if someone can comment on how the number of managers and directors in the new structure compares to what there would have been for all of those different units before the restructuring. Just because I can see that there's approximately 15 new management positions, but they're new to the structure, but not necessarily new to campus. So any comment on the cost savings that this new structure has related to those positions?
Thanks, Jillian. Elan, is that something that you would like to start on? I'm not sure to get the numbers, somebody on the project team might have to answer, but would you like to start?
Yeah, I will have to get somebody on the project team to speak to the specific numbers. What I would say is that this new model does help us achieve our set targets. So we were successful in achieving our set targets for the last year and for the year coming. So we are on track to achieve those cost containments that we were asked to achieve under this new model. But to the specific management roles, I'm sorry, I can't speak to that. I might have to get back to you in writing if somebody else can.
We'll see if Jazz might have a quick answer on that. And again, if we need some more specifics, we can go back. Just while Jazz is getting his camera up, I can confirm that what we've seen historically in the other areas is typically in the area of about a 30-ish% reduction in what you would consider to be management positions. But Jazz, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I think there are in the range of 25 to 30% below Jillian across the various functions, advancement, comms, marketing. So across the university, obviously there's more jobs in the center, as you rightly pointed out, but then there'll be corresponding decreases in the faculties over time as the center gets filled out. So they're totally in that ballpark, and we can get you the exact figures for each of them. I can do that for you afterwards, but 25 to 30% across all the functions.
Thank you, Jess. Celine, am I pronouncing that right? Celine?
Yes, hi, thank you. My name is Celine Gara-Brennan, she, her, hers, and I'm a librarian, and I'm also part of our library's communication and engagement team. And thank you so much for putting this on, and thank you for all your hard work that you've done on this so far. As a panel probably knows, but for the audience's information, the library has a really comprehensive and effective communication with our stakeholders through all these different channels. And this often goes beyond just marketing and advocacy, but practical advice, as well as some really important updates. For example, oh, the internet is down in this library, you can go to these other libraries, or the internet's back up at this library, for example. How will this structure still allow the library and other units that need to communicate effectively and really timely matters with our stakeholders, external or internal, how will the structure still allow that really timely delivery of information? Thank you so much, and thanks for letting me ask my question.
Excellent. Thanks, Celine. Your energy is palpable. I love it. That's great. I think we'll direct this one to Jennifer Pascal, please.
Thank you so much, Celine. Wonderful question, and certainly one that we've consulted with and had really extensive conversations with Dale, great conversations with Meredith, of course. So certainly what we've reiterated to Dale and what we want to ensure throughout this process is that we don't lose that amazing connection with the stakeholders. So while there might not be a role right in the libraries that's dedicated solely to communications, there's certainly that senior partner role that is shared across the VP portfolios, so the provost's portfolio, as well as VP Research and Innovation. And that senior partner is going to help continue that work, doing exactly as you're saying about those on the ground subject matter experts who have those really close connections to the community. So that is something we want to ensure that we don't break the flow of that with this new structure. So certainly ongoing conversations like this with you and the team to ensure that we maintain that excellent communication and engagement that you have with your stakeholders.
Excellent. Thank you, Celine and Jennifer. Let's go to Tamara, please.
Hi, thanks for giving the opportunity. Sorry, my voice is a little dry, but I'm wondering, given that we have seen that there's no communications at the department levels and that those roles will be centralized, and if and when we do apply for the other roles, if we are not given or given a positive outcome of having a role within the university's new structure, would we be notified formally that our position has been eliminated, and will we be given a package?
Thanks, Tamara. Good question. I believe there are some Q&As out there on this topic as well, but I think we'll go to Annette McPherson in HR for a response to this one. Annette?
Sure. Hi, Tamara. So part of your question is, so the recruitment one, right? So putting your name forward and seeking opportunities that you see that fit your, career path and your desire in the new structure. And then ultimately, if the position that you're currently encumbered is no longer available or no longer required by the department or faculty that you sit in, then that's a decision of the department or faculty that you're currently employed by to decide what that means. So if it means a position impact, and it depends under which collective agreement you would fall under, what that process looks like, but they're the ones that hold the budget for that position. So they have to assess what the reductions are, what remaining work there is within those departments and faculties. And then if there is no work, then you're correct. You'd be informed through the process under the collective agreement that applies to you.
Thank you. Is it Tamara or Tamara?
Tamara, and I have a further question, because that's a little confusing, I think, to quite a few of us. We've had discussions offline because the organizational chart shows that we're not there within the departments, but it doesn't, so it's showing that there's no communications, but yet the department is deciding whether or not that is happening.
So sorry, your position currently sits within a department and faculty, correct? Right. Yes. So they're the ones who own the budget for your current position. So they're the ones who would initiate and make decisions about your position. Where the function of the work sits may be within now external relations, and that work would then be transitioning within the new structure. But it's ultimately department, like your supervisor, your manager's decision on when they would trigger any kind of layoff or impact to your position. So there may be residual work, like I can't specifically say for each person if, there would be an impact, because it's still ultimately up to the faculty or department if there's work available, alternate work, depending on your skill set or other things that may be residual work that can be packaged into a position. So the process that's triggered under either a position disruption or a layoff would be done by your current manager or supervisor, and it's their decision depending on their budget and the work that they have remaining.
Okay,
that
thank
help
you.
clarify? Yeah. Okay.
I hope so. Okay.
Just a couple additional thoughts. Thanks, Tamara, and thanks, Annette. Elan, you may have some things that you'd like to add here. I mentioned that there was some information that went out on this. I'll actually ask Oliver or somebody to just maybe throw that in the chat box so people have it. I think it went out 2 weeks ago, but there might be some follow-on information in there. Again, just one of the two things I would reiterate. Again, not every position is the same, or every circumstance is the same, and so there is a sense of individuality, which is why it's important to have those conversations. In your case, Tamara, with your department leadership. I would also just emphasize that, to this point, and I don't know the exact percentage, but it's over 90% of the roles in the new administrative operating model have been filled by our very talented internal university staff. So, hopefully people are finding at present lots of opportunity there. Elan, was there anything you would add?
No, actually, I think you covered it off. I was just, Tamara was just going to encourage you to do the same thing and have a conversation, with your supervisor and reiterate Todd's point. We know that there's great talent across this institution, and we want to ensure, to the extent that we're able to keep everybody here on campus. And so to the extent that we're able, there will be, internal candidates that are successful. So would just encourage you to talk to your supervisor, and of course others are, like myself, are also available if that helps tomorrow.
Thanks, Len. We've got lots of hands ahead of us. We've got about 23 minutes left. So let's move on to Niall. Am I pronouncing that right?
That's right. Hi, everyone. Niall McKenna, communications strategist. My question is, what opportunities there'll be for career advancement under the new structure? Part of why I'm asking that question is that I heard Elan say, and I've heard this before, that the structure is going to be flattened. And some of the, executive director positions, some of the more stratified positions are being eliminated. So I'd like to know what the opportunities will be for career advancement in the new structure.
Excellent. Thanks, Niall. I certainly have some general thoughts on that, but Jennifer, I wonder if you'd like to just start, and then we'll see where it takes us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Todd. So as Todd and Elan have discussed, there is a flattening. Communications is an interesting case, though, where in fact there is progression and opportunity in a way that there hasn't been before. So the way that communications and marketing teams have grown over the years, it's been teams of 1, teams of 2, teams of 5, and we've all been ceilinged out for a very, very long time. Whereas now, you can see a clear progression from communications associate to partner to senior partner to director to all the way up to AVP. So there really is trajectory and opportunity. There's also opportunity in a way that there hasn't been before for mobility across. So where someone like you, Niall, you have really extensive experience working in a central unit, and there's perhaps now an opportunity to look at what it looks like to support a faculty or a unit with focused, targeted communications, and vice versa, so that people have a more robust experience when they're ready to progress to the next role in their career. So I'm really encouraged in terms of the mobility for communications in particular.
Thank you, Jennifer. That covered off well sort of the general points I might have added now. Elan, anything you would add to that?
No, I think Jennifer captured it well. Thanks, Todd.
Excellent. Thank you now. Stara, please.
Hi there. So my question's about IST and what level of capacity you are at right now with them. Have they all been hired on? Are they all currently, working to 100% capacity? And the reason I asked that question is I've noticed, I've been working from the office for the last month, and I noticed it was taking a turnaround time of about 2 days, sometimes 3 days, to have my ticket answered. And I'm kind of concerned with September 1st and all the students coming back. If we're all drawing from the same IST pool, what's that going to look like for turnaround time?
Thanks, Stara. Just a question. This is in the context of general IT or specific to marketing communications matters?
I guess it would be general.
Okay, so we don't necessarily have the right people on the panel to answer that. IT is in my portfolio, so I will ask somebody that's not sort of moderating here to make a note of that for me, and we'll catch your name, and I'll have somebody from IT get back to you. What I can just quickly say is that the IT transitions across the different faculties and units is is progressing well. And I am not aware of any out of the ordinary challenges within our response time. So I'll have to follow up on that. We are obviously just coming back to campus. We've got people working from home. I'm sure everybody knows this, there's a global shortage of computer chips, right? And so trying to get new equipment is really tough. But so lots of challenges there, but I'll follow up on that, Star, and we'll have somebody get back to you. Thank you. Stephanie, please.
Hi, thank you to the panel for taking the time to answer a lot of questions that are happening here. So I currently manage 3 clinical academic departments in the Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry. I do have a dedicated communications person that helps support those departments when it comes to department websites, events, and social media. I just wanted to get some clarification. Now, Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry really relies on their websites and social media, not only to attract residents, fellows, but also clinical staff. So for most departments, we have hundreds of clinical staff who do not get paid by the university, but help support the academic mission of these departments. And those communications are our lifeline to them in terms of engagement. If we're moving these types of things to a centralized approach, I just wanted to know what plan is in place, because each department is not cookie cutter. So my 3 departments I manage, you cannot take the same strategy and apply it for each one of those. It's different. There's a whole subculture for each one of them. So anesthesiology is not the same as emergency medicine. It's not the same as medicine. It's not the same as family medicine, even if they all have the similar titles. So right now I have a dedicated person who knows the players, knows what to put in for social media, knows what tweets to retweet, what the focus needs to be on websites. How are you going to turn that into a centralized approach that will still allow us to be competitive when we're looking at retaining those clinical staff, residents, and fellows across the country and internationally?
Thanks, Stephanie. A lot to that question, so might be a few people to provide answer, but Elan, why don't we start with you, please?
Yeah, great question, Stephanie, and thank you very much for it. I'll start, and then Jazz, I'll put you on notice that it'll come your way after, and we might even want to augment with Jennifer. But if I understand the question fully, Stephanie, I think a large portion of your question relates to centers and institutes that have external funding for communications. And so that is an area that we identified through the process. I can tell you that we have pulled it out as one of the areas that requires additional work. And so we have a new Vice President, Research and Innovation, and she is undertaking a review of the centers and institutes to take a look at which ones exist, in what form, what are the relationships with the university, et cetera. And so that work is going to take place. We in external relations will play a role in that, from understanding the relationship to the university and the role of communications. So I would hope that that work happens in this next quarter. In the meantime, I can tell you that Jennifer Pascoe in communications has been working directly with some of the centers and institutes to understand specific issues and to be able to offer support and ensure that the work is integrated with some of the work that we're doing at the center. But Jazz, I might get you just to speak to the process of the review of centers and institutes to the extent that we understand it. And then Jennifer, over to you for a bit more detail on the specific comms functions.
So with regards to the centers and institutes, we wrote a paper that we took to PECA, Stephanie, and in it we basically indicated that there's a lot of partnerships that are, as you said, very specific. They're for certain purposes. There've been, some of them are historical, been there for a long time, et cetera, et cetera. So we want to be very specific with that review. So our intention is that once the partners are on board, they can work with VPRI to try and run that process through, be there, understand the detail, understand the partnerships, understand the funding that's coming through, what it's for, and what the overall objective of those types of partnerships are. I think the other thing, if I can just add, in the new model, you mentioned, a couple times that you have one person dedicated to doing this, right? What we've tried to build into the new model is actually, at the faculty level, a team-based approach, right? So you've got your partner, but you also have a senior partner at the health sciences table, and then you have a number of comms associates. And what we're trying to do there is just build in some redundancy so that, if something happens to that individual, other people understand, those tweets, understand the social media context, understand the purposes of that communication. So it's not so reliant on one person. And through the consultation, we heard a lot from communications people that, I'm doing this all by myself. I don't have backup. I don't have anyone to go to when there are issues. So the model tries to address that issue by creating this more team-based approach. You don't have one person, you have a number of people or parts of a number of people that are going to support you. And it'll be up to that team to understand and have mechanisms for transfer of knowledge, understand, your specific comms requirements, so that there's backup there for you as well.
Thanks, Jazz. Thanks, Stephanie, for your question. We've got about, oh, sorry, Stephanie, follow on?
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify, Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry is not an institute or center, it's a faculty, and they already do have, so the faculty communications team has already been great in having regular meetings with department communication staff. So I guess I'm still kind of looking for, how are you going to ensure that the department specific knowledge and culture is going to be managed at a central level? So all I'm hearing is that we'll have a partner who manage multiple departments, but that's not addressing the fact that they will not have an in-depth knowledge of the culture and the players at a department level that is so critical when it comes to clinical academic departments.
I think to some degree, Stephanie, you could possibly make that same comment about all of the streams of work, whether it be HR, finance, IT, student services. And so what I can say on a general level is that those central service providers are charged with ensuring that the needs are met. One of the ways that is being done in the short term is that the partner team resources that are being assigned to work with specific areas more often than not have a history with those areas already. So they're, if nothing else, allows for a transition time. But Jennifer, is there anything else that you would add?
Absolutely. And Stephanie, you really hit the nail on the head. There can't be a cookie cutter approach to communications, as I'm sure there can't be to many of the work streams. So it's about finding that alignment, creating those efficiencies, but also tailoring the communications efforts to the specific strategic priorities and needs of your audiences. So you have a very clear sense. Certainly clinical is very unique. It has specific needs. You already have alignment with those three departments, recognizing there's nuances within the three. So it's going to be about spending time to ensure that, again, like the question with regards to libraries, we maintain those critical functions and don't lose that touch, because we know that it's so critically important to your business model and operations.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Stephanie. We've got looks like 6 more hands up and about 7 minutes. So we're going to do the best we can to get through. I'll maybe just ask folks if we can be crisp. That might help us get through everything. So Yolanda, over to you, please.
I will try to be succinct. This may be information that's already been provided or that's out there. I wasn't able to find anything. I understand that this whole transition is going to be a work in progress over the next year. I was just curious if there's more information that's going to be provided about maybe a timeline for some of the nitty-gritty details. So, I'm thinking, when will there be a more comprehensive list of like the tasks assigned or dispersed to the different levels? So, I'm thinking like speech writing is something that I know quite a few people are involved with. That's just one example. So I'm wondering if there's any information about when we might be able to see more of a detailed sort of list of what falls where.
Yeah, Great question, Yolanda. And again, not uncommon, right? Everybody, myself included, want the details, and we're getting closer and closer every day to that. But I think in this case, Jennifer, we'll go back to you.
Sure, a great question, Yolanda. And certainly we're going to be building on the service charter that we all worked on collaboratively to figure out what sits within a center of expertise versus what is the responsibility of a partner. And I think in some cases, for those specifics, it's really going to depend. And so we'll have to have further conversations and consultations. And certainly once we have the senior partners in place, that's going to be a really critical piece to that pathway forward in terms of determining the needs of each of the units. So we can figure out what goes where. So can't give you a solid answer on when we'll see tasks and timelines, but all that's to say it's going to be an iterative and emergent process in the months ahead.
So thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Yolanda. Sydney, please.
Hi, thank you. So my question is for those positions that aren't captured on the org chart. It was said earlier that, oh, the department can evaluate if that work still needs to be done. So I guess my question is kind of a two-parter. One, if that role doesn't exist anymore, are those duties being moved centrally or will they cease to exist? And then two, if it's being moved centrally, does that mean the money is moving centrally? And then that area faculty department is then on the hook for extra funding for that position if they want to keep it?
I'll actually try to take a shot at that one, Sydney, and I will ask Rob or Brian to maybe back me up here if I get it wrong. So there's two things that are happening a little bit simultaneously, and both involve the administrative restructuring transformation activity that we're going through. The one way that you can look at it is we need to reduce our administrative operating costs. The total that is targeted is $95 million over the 3-year period. That reduction in cost has been set out for all faculties and units by way of targets. Once those savings targets are achieved, then any further efficiencies that may be found within that faculty or unit are funds that are then allowed to be reinvested into the core mission of whatever that unit does, that unit or faculty does. We have a handful of faculties that have largely met their targets so far, but we still have quite a ways to go in this coming year. So that's the first part of what we're doing. The second part of what we're doing, however, is related, is that we are working to build the most efficient, effective administrative operation as we can, so that the university can further benefit beyond this period of contraction that we're in right now as we move into growth, and allow us to grow in a manner that permits the majority of new revenue streams and new activity to go again into that core purpose of teaching, research, and community. So specific to your question, if somebody sits in a role, they don't apply for a role in the center, and the transition is coming to an end, then local leadership will have to have a discussion around what are the generalist activities. Actually, I'll disconnect those two things if I can. There still will be generalist administrative supports throughout the organization. The intention was never to completely do away with them, and so those individuals that sit in those roles that you mentioned may find their way into an ongoing administrative support role. Those general administrative support roles would work maybe within or initiate some of these broader university-wide processes, but they wouldn't duplicate them. Sorry, that was a long answer. Hopefully I touched on all parts of your question. Thank you, Sydney. And if I didn't, feel free to send me an email and I'm happy to set up a short discussion. Andrea, please.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I'm Andrea Cliff. I am the Strategic Communications and Events Team Lead for the Department of Medicine. And I'm going to switch gears. We've talked a lot about communications, but events, that's where my expertise lies. And so I've been anxiously awaiting more information on events. I know that Elan said that there is some planning, but I guess my general question is, I've seen the org chart for alumni relations, and my question, I guess, is the plan for drilling down to department level, so college, faculty, department, and even divisional levels, is that plan to have a shared services approach or some kind of center for expertise, or how does that work? Because events are so integral to our community engagement and I think all over campus, not just alumni relations. So what, can you share a little bit of the vision or tell me where I can find some more information on that, please?
Thanks, Andrea. Sean, why don't we go to you as a start? Sean Price.
And thanks, Andrea. Great question. So yes, there is an events team that will be created within external relations, and that's positioned right now in alumni relations. And so in the short term, what we're going to be able to do here is to bring our event resources together just at the external relations level to begin with, to look at all the different audiences that we specialize in reaching out to, including alumni, donors, government and community, and assisting with some of the more institutional events as well. And so that's really step one, is creating one events team within external relations that specialize in those key audiences. Your question, though, is really important for the future, because what we've heard quite a bit is at that faculty departmental level, there's an interest in having support, partnership, whatever that looks like, to be able to execute events across the university. And as you say, it's really integral to the whole culture and engagement strategy for our university. So once that team is set up within external relations, we're then going to proactively reach out to the faculties, departments, and figure out what all that looks like. Once we've got the processes and the team set up in ER, we then expand to the rest of the university. And that's really going to start by listening to what the demand looks like and how we can help. And, if we are going to be able to extend that service more broadly to the faculty partners and departments, as you say, we're going to need the resources to be able to do that. But it's a bit more of a longer term vision, probably more about 6 months down the road that we'll start having those conversations. We'll get that ER team set up first. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. So for now, just business as usual. We'll just keep plugging away, I guess, right?
Yeah, and we're completely here for support in the meantime. If you want to reach out and see how we can help you in the meantime.
Great. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Andrea, and thank you, Sean. Danica and Bryce, I'm sorry, we're out of time, and some of our key panelists I know have a hard stop here in about 60 seconds. So I'm going to ask somebody from the team to post in the chat box the appropriate place to send your questions. And if you wouldn't mind, please send them in. We will ensure that we get an answer for you. Those answers may very well form a part of a quad post sort of Q&A. Often happens after these, so we can also make sure that it's shared. And if a conversation is appropriate, somebody will give you a call. So I do apologize. Forgive me, but this group has had some great questions, and thank you to our panelists as well. I think great job working through our discussion today. Would like to thank everybody for coming. Some good, thoughtful questions, some honest feedback seated in there. As I mentioned, if you have questions that weren't answered here today, or you think about a question after the event is over, please do submit those. There is a set feedback form. I see Michelle has posted a link in the chat box there, can be used as well. You can find the set feedback form if you want it on the UAT website. would like to thank some of the people who come together to make these events possible. I like to think we're getting pretty good at them. This is about our 10th one, I think. But first of all, big thanks, of course, to our panelists, Elan, Sonia, Jennifer, Kelly, Sean, Jazz, Annette, Rob, Brian. Even those of you that we didn't get to hear from today, thank you. I know there's thought and preparation that goes into this. Thank you to Claire and Grant for helping us on the technical side. Certainly couldn't do this without you. And to Pam and Jason for being here with us today, our fantastic ASL interpreters. Also want to give a shout out to the many members of the Service Excellence Transformation team who have been working hard in the background in preparation for today's event. Thank you very much. Do please keep watching our FAQ page. It's on the UAT website, as well as in this case, the external engagement stream webpage, as we will be posting answers to the questions that were submitted. It usually takes, I don't know, about a week or 10 days to get that pulled together, so you can watch for that. If you're interested, our next Ask Set Anything event will focus on student services, and it is scheduled for Friday, September 17th from 11 o'clock until noon. And event registration can also be found at the UAT website. We will also continue to share UAT updates in the Quad newsletter every week, as well as other streams. However, don't hesitate if you have any questions on anything from today's agenda, reach out to any of our panelists. If you have questions on anything more general, do feel free to reach out to myself or Rob Munro directly, and we'll happy to answer. So thank you all for coming. I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we will talk soon.